Hi and welcome to the Belfry. You've joined me on the Brabazon golf course. This is the famous par 4 18th, and in this video we're talking about how you can shallow the club shaft, and more importantly talking about when you actually shallow your club shaft. Just before we get started, in the corner of the screen you should have the details for my social media accounts, so if you don't already then please go ahead and follow me on those. So the topic of shallowing the club shaft, we'll talk about what that means in a moment, is quite topical at the moment. Certainly if you pop that into YouTube or even into Google, you'll find quite a lot of posts, a lot of videos, a lot of discussions about this topic. And certainly we would find that the golfers who play this game to the highest level will generally have an element of this in their golf swing. The key thing would be when this happens, because I'm going to suggest that most of you will have an element of shallowing in your golf swing. We're going to talk about when it happens, and we're maybe going to talk about the importance of this and how this can affect what happens down at impact. So, for the purpose of this video, what do we mean by a club shaft which is shallow? Well, we're really talking about the angle of the club shaft. Now, we are looking at this through a 2D camera. We appreciate that. So it does not give us exactly what's happening, but we are effectively talking about the angle at the... If my golf club is close to this class as a shallow club shaft gets closer to vertical, we class this as a steep club shaft. So if I was making a downswing and my club approached vertical, we would say that club shaft is steepening. If my golf club, however, approaches horizontal, we would say it's shallowing. Now, we're not necessarily saying it has to get to those two extreme points for us to count, but you can see the ideas that we're talking about there. So what I would tend to see is the golfer will often shallow the golf club in many cases, but I see this at three distinct areas in the golf swing. I class this as what I call an early shallow, a mid shallow, and a late shallow. So let's go through exactly what those three things are and which one might be better for you. So the early shallow. This is when we see a golfer from the top, very, very early, shallow the club shaft. So this would normally happen by the end of the early downswing. So before my lead arm reaches horizontal with the ground, which is here, the club shaft has already shallowed by some amount. How much is depending on the golfer. We're not going to go into that too much today, but we have started to shallow the golf club. So that would be what I class as an early shallow. A mid shallow would be someone like myself. She got the club too steep. When my left arm reaches horizontal, the club shaft is still a little bit too steep. By the time my club shaft reaches last parallel, I've shallowed it. So it is a later shallow than the previous example, but we class this, or I class this as a mid shallow. So what you can see here is as I start, I'm too steep, and then as I approach the last parallel, I begin to shallow the golf club. This would be what I would class as a mid shallow. Now the late shallow would be when the golfer gets almost to last parallel with the golf club. So you can see here my golf club is about level with the ground, and from here to the golf ball they are then making an attempt to shallow the golf club. Now when I say an attempt, we often find from this golfer that they never quite do it, but there is an attempt to do it. And what we would often find from that golfer is they attempt to do this with a few different things. They often try and push the handle out towards the golf ball. They will often early extend with the body. They will often tip back away from the target, so it's too much bend to my right, in an attempt to shallow the golf club. So even if you are the kind of golfer who feels that you are extremely steep in the downswing, you have a club path which is excessively left of target, you hit slices, you hit fades, and you believe your golf swing is very steep, it most probably is. But there is probably still an area in that swing where you attempt to shallow the golf club. So what do we want? Well, my preference would be number one, the early shallow, because certainly when we get to this last point here, the attempt to shallow it has to come from a few different areas as we spoke about, and that can really affect how we pivot through the golf ball. We can often find that the golfer's club path isn't as consistent as we want, the strike isn't as consistent as we want, and that's really going to be the golfers out there who unfortunately don't hit their irons or their other clubs as well as they would like. The mid shallow, so that's what I do. Again, this is maybe better, but it's not perfect because I'm steep and I still shallow it a little bit too late. So I often find that the club tips under a little bit and I swing the club out to the right. So the mid-shallowers are often the golfers who struggle with the club paths too much out to the right. They often struggle with the push shots, the hook shots, and they struggle to control the curvature. For me, the best golfers who play this game have the club shaft shallowing earlier in the downswing, by the time the lead arm reaches horizontal with the ground. These golfers very, very often from here actually have the club then starting to steepen a little bit. So this would be my preference. Now, when I say my preference, I certainly wouldn't want all the golfers I coach to get up to the top, drop the club to horizontal, rotate on and spin the club back out in front, because that would be quite extreme. But I do like to see in that early part of the downswing, the club shaft just start to shallow slightly. For me, that really encourages the body to pivot much better through the golf ball. It encourages us to start to steepen the club, which helps square the face naturally and earlier. And for me, I see much, much greater benefits through the impact area from those golfers who make that move a little bit earlier. So what I would like you to think about is, when do you shallow the club shaft? Shallowing it late is not going to give you great results. Shallowing it mid might give you better results, but not perfect. I would like you to feel that from the top of the golf swing, we start to get the club just shallowing out a little bit, and for me, that is going to help you pivot into the golf ball and ultimately hit the golf shots a lot better. Hopefully that made sense. Right, I'm going to hit one. So I'm going to hit one, but this is not something that I would be able to demonstrate particularly well, because as I say, I tend to fall into that mid category, which is something I'm certainly working on, but not quite got there just yet. Although, that was pretty good. So that would suggest to me, ball float is nice and neutral, that ball's landed just on the green about 12, maybe 15 feet away. The ball flight there would suggest to me that I probably did a little bit better there than I normally do, but without looking back on camera, it would be difficult for me to say. So hopefully that video helps. Maybe not so many drills in there, but a little bit more informative for you. Maybe something you can take away and have a think about next time you're looking at your golf swing, and maybe something that you can work towards to hopefully improve the way you strike the golf ball. Thanks for watching. There's a like button down there, so if you did like the video, clicking that really does help me. There's a comments box, so I would love to hear what you think about the video, or any of the videos you'd like me to film moving forward. You can post those down below, and I'll do my best to respond to as many as I can. And last thing, please subscribe to my channel. It's absolutely free. There's loads more videos on there, and there's more being uploaded each week. So click the link in the description box down below, and that will allow you to do just that. Thank you again for watching, and hopefully we'll see you again soon.